In a chilling memory, it was the early hours of Saturday, March 8, 2014. Malaysia flight MH370 was one of the aircraft scheduled for the early morning flights. But strangely, flight MH370, which carried 239 crew members and passengers, disappeared into thin air just minutes after takeoff from the Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. The flight, which was under the command of 53-year-old Malaysian pilot Captain Zahri Ahmed Shah and 27-year-old co-pilot First Officer Farid Abdul Hamid, was scheduled to fly from Kuala Lumpur International Airport and land in Beijing Capital International Airport in China, was lost from the surveillance radar just 39 minutes after flying into the air.
Malaysian 370. Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9, right. Malaysian 370.
Planes go up and planes go down, but what planes never do is just vanish into thin air without a single trace. The pilot of flight MH370 last communicated with air traffic control around 1:19 Malaysian time, about 39 minutes after takeoff, when the plane was over the South China Sea, and disappeared from the radar at 1:22 Malaysian time, within minutes after its last voice communication with the air traffic control in Malaysia.
Level? 370, we are ready, requesting flight level 350 to Beijing.
Malaysian 370 is cleared to Beijing via P-Boss Alpha departure, 6,000 feet, squawk 2157.
Beijing, people Sanfang 6000, squawk 2157, Malaysian 370, thank you.
The plane diverted from its original northeastern course and headed west across the Malay Peninsula, continuing on the diverted course until it was completely lost from the military radar at 2:22 Malaysian time, while over the Andaman Sea. Before its disappearance, neither the pilot nor the plane's communication system relayed a distress signal, indication of bad weather or any technical problems. With all 293 crew members and passengers aboard presumed dead after disappearing with the plane, the case of Malaysia flight MH370 is said to be the biggest mystery in the history of aviation. Investigators propose many theories, including a murder-suicide and a possible hijacking with the crew involvement might be responsible for the plane's disappearance.
But for me, it was clear. The overwhelming body of evidence pointed strongly to my theory. The pilot decided to commit mass murder-suicide. He had wound up on this straight beeline into the southern Indian Ocean in order to end his life and to murder more than 200 other human beings.
The multinational search for the missing flight MH370 became the most expensive aviation search in history. The search began in the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea. The search was extended to the Straits of Malacca and the Andaman Sea. From October 2014 to January 2017, a comprehensive search of 120,000 kilometers square of the ocean floor yielded no trace of the airplane. The aircraft, which was carrying 12 crew members and 227 passengers from 14 different nations, majority of whom were Chinese citizens, were assumed lost with no survivors. It is also said to be the deadliest incident involving Boeing 777 and one of the deadliest incidents in the history of Malaysia Airlines. In the aftermath of the disappearance of flight MH370, relatives of the lost passengers blamed the Malaysian government, and on 25 March 2014, about 200 family members of the lost Chinese passengers in flight MH370 protested outside the Malaysian embassy in Beijing, China.
This is such a rarity in Beijing, a public protest bringing the streets to a standstill, but such is the discontent amongst these family members, they're allowed to do it.
Some relatives who flew to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia continued the protest, accusing the Malaysian government of hiding the truth and containing a murderer. Some Chinese citizens boycotted all Malaysian products and services, including holidays and singers, in protest of how Malaysia was handling the investigation of the missing flights.
Malaysian 370. Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9, right. That's nice, Malaysian 370.
Malaysia suffered a few $1 million loss, especially in the travel and tourism industry, because China, which was the third largest source of visitors to Malaysia, dropped. The disappearance of the Malaysian flight MH370 has been described as the biggest mystery in modern aviation. The fact that a modern aircraft could disappear in this era of digitally connected world spread disbelief and confusion among the general public.